And here's the kicker. Property damage doesn't just cover car damage. Otherwise, it would be called car damage, not property damage. What if you yourself suffer such a tragedy? Would you be satisfied with $100,000 for the rest of your life spent in a wheelchair? Next time you see an exotic sports car zooming by, instead of taking pictures, keep both hands on the wheel, especially if you carry only the minimum property damage coverage. Not having insurance means more than just lack of access to policy limits. It also means no access to the insurance company's legal team. That $1,000 might seem significant when you're shopping online, but it's a drop in the bucket when dealing with the legal system. Welcome back. In our last episode, we discussed the basics of car insurance, some common misconceptions, and the importance of knowing your coverage limits. Remember that bank analogy from the last episode? Just like how your bank balance determines what you can withdraw, your insurance limit determines how much money you have available in the event of an accident. Today, we will dive deeper into the specific limits required by Illinois law and discuss what happens if your coverage falls short. Understanding these details can make a big difference in protecting yourself financially in case of an accident. Let's get started. My name is Grzegorz Czubernat, and I am a personal injury and accident attorney in the state of Illinois. My job is to help individuals who have been injured in accidents to secure fair compensation for their injuries. If you have suffered personal injuries and need legal help, contact me and I will help you understand your rights and fight for what you deserve. While I do not sell insurance, I speak from my experience as a personal injury lawyer dealing with insurance matters. Let's move on and see what car insurance limits are required by Illinois law. Remember that your insurance policy consists of different sections and various limits. From a personal injury attorney's perspective, the most important coverage is liability. To avoid a ticket in Illinois, you must have 25 over 50 coverage, which means $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident. So if you're in an accident with one person, you have $25,000 available. But if, let's say, 5 people are involved in the accident, they presumably have to share the $50,000 limit, which gives each person $10,000. That's not much, right? A few hours at the hospital after an accident can easily cost $25,000. When we think of car accidents, we often imagine collisions involving other cars. However, car accidents also involve bicycles, motorcycles, and pedestrians, where injuries are usually very serious or catastrophic. Even your old car, which you might not value highly, can still cause fatal injuries to a pedestrian or send a motorcyclist sliding headfirst into a ditch. I often hear that 100 over 300 limit is considered high, which means $100,000 per person and $300,000 per accident. But when an accident involves only one person, you have only $100,000 available. So don't focus too much on the $300,000 amount. Consider this: high compared to what? There are policies on the market with 1 million over 1 million limits, meaning $1 million per person and $1 million per accident. Plus, you can buy additional umbrella coverage, sometimes up to $5 million. So, considering this, does the $100,000 limit still seem high? If you cause an accident where the other person ends up in a wheelchair, would you sleep well knowing that you have $100,000 to cover their damages? And what if you yourself suffer such a tragedy? Would you be satisfied with $100,000 for the rest of your life spent in a wheelchair? Now let's look at the next element of car insurance, property damage. In Illinois, the minimum required amount for this coverage is $20,000. But let's be honest, with today's car prices, that's a joke. So next time you see an exotic sports car zooming by, instead of taking pictures, keep both hands on the wheel, especially if you carry only the minimum property damage coverage. And here's the kicker. Property damage doesn't just cover car damage. Otherwise, it would be called car damage, not property damage. This coverage includes damage to buildings, light poles, and other expensive items that might be on or near the road. Picture this. You're driving down the highway and suddenly you lose control and crash into a shiny boat being towed on a trailer. The boat, once pristine, now lies wrecked and broken, a mess of fiberglass and metal. Fixing or replacing such an expensive boat can cost a fortune. That's when property damage coverage becomes essential. Earlier, we talked about how high limits are crucial to protect you from liability when you cause an accident. Now, let's look at it from the other side. The first scenario is when you are in an accident with a driver who doesn't have insurance. This could be because the driver never bought insurance, neglected to pay premiums, and their policy lapsed, or simply fled the scene of the accident. So technically, you have an accident with someone who was uninsured. The second scenario is when the at-fault driver has too low insurance to cover the full cost of your damages. In such cases, if the potential compensation exceeds the limit of the at-fault driver's policy, you can turn to your own policy limits, provided the limits on your policy are higher than the available limits of the at-fault driver. It's worth noting that in Illinois, the minimum required coverage for drivers who are uninsured or underinsured is only $2,550, which means $25,000 per person and $50,000 per accident. Let's dive into another crucial point. Not having insurance means more than just lack of access to policy limits. It also means no access to the insurance company's legal team. Imagine you're at fault in an accident and uninsured. You won't have the insurance company's lawyers to back you up. Instead, you will need to hire your own attorney or worse, face the possibility of defending yourself without legal representation. If you caused a traffic collision and are uninsured, you need to act fast to organize your defense. The lawsuit against you starts with a complaint, which gets served to you along with a court summons, usually by a local sheriff or a private process server. You might have no more than 30 days to respond to this complaint, with the exact time frame listed on the summons. This means quickly finding an attorney to handle your defense and prepare all necessary documents in time. And remember, you will be footing the bill for your attorney's services because you don't have an insurance company's legal team to fall back on. This can become incredibly costly, especially if the case drags on for years. To put this into perspective, let's say you saved $1,000 by not buying insurance or opting for a minimal coverage. That $1,000 might seem significant when you're shopping online, but it's a drop in the bucket when dealing with the legal system. It might only cover about 2 hours of a defense attorney's time. And those are just the legal fees. What about the compensation for the person whose life you might have destroyed? potentially leaving them in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. Now, even if you have insurance, there's always a risk your insurer might deny coverage. Imagine you're at fault in an accident where the other driver suffers serious injuries and decides to sue you. You might think you're covered, but your insurance company could have a valid reason to deny your defense and refuse to pay any compensation. Reasons for insurance companies to deny defense obligations can vary and often result from breach of the policy terms. For example, maybe your child, whom you forgot to add to the policy, was driving your car at the time of the accident. Your policy might require all drivers to be listed. In such a scenario, you could face not just one lawsuit from the injured driver seeking compensation for his personal injuries, but also a second lawsuit, a declaratory action from your insurance company. They would seek a court ruling to deny your coverage, leaving you high and dry. In a previous episode, I emphasized the importance of having a trusted insurance agent to provide clarity and guidance before any issues arise. This is yet another reason why working with a reputable insurance agent and thoroughly understanding your policy terms is crucial before an accident happens, not after. In summary, car insurance is about more than just meeting legal requirements. It's about protecting yourself financially in case of an accident. Make sure you understand your policy limits and consider speaking with your insurance agent about increasing them to better safeguard yourself and your loved ones. Having the right insurance coverage can save you from financial ruin in the event of an accident. So, when thinking about the cost of insurance, weigh it against the potential costs of not having adequate coverage. Don't wait until it's too late. Review your policy now and encourage your friends and family to do the same. Please share this video to help others understand the importance of adequate insurance coverage. Thank you for staying with me until the end. If you want to listen to my podcast on other platforms, remember that our podcast is now available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. See you next week.